What's up, fam? We got another video today on advice that I've received over time that's been really helpful to me that I would like to pass on. I was going to make this as just like a one-shot video talking to the camera, no PowerPoint, nothing fancy, not that I do anything fancy anyway. And I'm pretty ADHD and I need notes usually to keep me on task. Otherwise, I'll just start, talking about whatever. And as I was building out notes, then I'm making like sub notes to make sure I don't forget to say this and definitely say that. It was just turning into a PowerPoint. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to throw this into some slides and just do this the format that we usually do it. So hopefully that's cool with you guys. Today, we're going to talk about how to make daily progress on long-term goals. Again, I'm not an expert on things. These are just things that help me. And so when we're talking about long-term goals, we're talking about things that you can control, goals that you have for yourself. So development goals. So that could be weight loss, strength gains, sports, skill-based athletics, creativity, career development, personal development, stuff like that. And so we will be using examples. I'm an example-minded person, so I have like a bunch of examples to help you, I guess, hopefully try to frame it to your own goals, whether they are similar or completely different. So hopefully you get something out of this. So like I said, I'm not an expert, okay? This is a culmination of things that I've learned over time from watching other people that have been successful with hobbies, career-related things, personal development, wisdom, just been there, done that kind of stuff. Books that I've read, podcasts I've listened to, just professionals I've been around, just a lot of people have poured into me. And so these are some of the biggest things. This is not comprehensive. None of my videos are, but hopefully it's helpful. And I try to be as applied as possible. So this is all application based. And just so you know, I'm a work in progress as well. Obviously, I'm working on my own goals. I've accomplished a few of them, but that's the thing about goals. You accomplish one and then you're already thinking about the next one. You're like, okay, how do I level up? Or where's the next step? Or this was nice, but now I want to focus on that. So these are things that I use every day and I'm using them right now. So join me in using these. So let's talk about long-term goals. Most people have them. And like I said, long-term goals could be losing weight. It could be, you want to build some muscle. It could be you want to get better at a sport, or, you want to go professional. You want to go pro at a sport. Maybe you've got career goals. You got personal goals. I always do this. I'm trying to do less of that. We all have long-term goals. For the most part, most of us have long-term goals. If not, we all should have them. It's very healthy. You should be goal-minded. That's probably advice number one, be goal-minded. The thing about long-term goals, to nobody's surprise, I'm sure everybody relates. It can be really hard to feel like you're making progress, especially if it's like a big goal, maybe it's a year goal, multi-month goal. It could be multi-year. Just, if you've got a big goal, a career goal, I want to make X amount of money, or I want to not hate my job, or I want to get over this thing that happened to me forever ago. It can be really hard to feel like you're making progress because it's not stuff that's, you're chipping away. You are chipping away at it daily, but it's just, we can be too zoomed into something, right? It's almost like you don't even realize you're getting taller when you're, I don't know, an adolescent, because it's happening very slowly, day by day, right? The change is so incremental and we're so close to the change that it feels like nothing is changing, right? So sometimes that's the problem with a long-term goal. You don't feel like you're making progress because you're so zoomed in. One really great way that you can help that is by getting some perspective, zooming out, looking how far you've come. But sometimes you haven't been doing something long enough to really see that you've come very far. Or the other side of that is sometimes the progress on things that we work on is not linear, right? So you're not always like, okay, I have made 11 weeks of progress, and that's a lot of progress. Some things it's like you could work on something for 11 weeks and it's like a slog at the beginning, and then maybe things start happening faster and faster and it's like a snowball. Progress and change and working toward your goals isn't linear, especially if it's a career thing. A lot of people aren't just making more money every single year. It's like years go by and then there's an opportunity, a promotion, you're qualified for something, and then there's a big change. It's like, man, how am I getting better if I don't feel like I'm making progress, or there's nothing measurable, right? Sometimes long-term progress can be really fickle. It can be 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So if you're trying to lose weight, I'm sure you can relate. You will lose 5 pounds one day, and then the next day you've gained back 4 of them. Sometimes it's, actually your progress, like maybe you've been sticking to your diet or sticking to your exercise, and then other days you aren't sticking to it. Sometimes it's as simple as like, I had a lot of salt And salt is part of the osmotic process that your body drawing in water. So it's like, I'm just hanging on to more water today, right? Even though I physically have gone to the bathroom and like I should have excreted some water or I sweat, I just have a lot of salt and I drink a lot of water. There's more water literally inside of my cells. It's not a bad thing, but if you only go by the scale, it feels like a bad thing, doesn't it? So that just wraps up this whole thing where long-term goals are great. We should all have them, but they can be very discouraging. So how do we not get discouraged, and how do we start seeing the progress on the thing that we're working daily on, right? So here's a tip that I have for you. It's really helped me. It's called Today Goals. It's not really a magic name. I just call them Today Goals because I say, okay, here's what today's goal is. I've heard it called micro goals before. Some people call them day-to-day goals. Whatever you want to call them, there's not a magic name. There's probably 100 other names out there that I'm not even thinking of. But for me, I call them Today Goals. And it's not because it's a, I'm just like, here's what I'm focusing on today. I will literally tell myself, here's today's goal. And sometimes the today goal is the same thing a bunch of times, right? We're going to get into that. But really, I think the key here is you pick one thing to focus on today. And so this is within your overall goal, right? And we're going to get into examples, so you'll see me frame it a bunch of times. But within your overall goal, I'm going to pick one thing that has to do with it, has to do with improvement of that overall goal, and that's what I'm going to focus on today. I'm not ignoring everything else. I'm just really paying attention to this one thing, right? We're working on everything. We're still chipping away at our main goal, but we're focusing on one thing that we can control. So that's something that's going to be, I think, really important to picking a good one thing to focus on, is something that should be within your control, or at the very least, the effort of it is within your control. Because if it's your work day, sometimes that's not always within your control. But you can control your effort towards that one thing that you're focusing on. It should be something that's realistically accomplishable in one day, right? Again, we're going to go through examples, but you don't want to just take your multi-year today goal and be like, well, something that realistically is only accomplishable in a year. I'm going to do that in a day. That's crazy. It's got to be something realistic that you can accomplish in 1 year, or I'm sorry, in 1 day, right? And so you might feel like you're starting a little simple, like you're selling yourself short, but you'll see the key here is the effort of it, right? There's value. Even if it's something that's very simple and easy, whatever, there's still value in that. As you progress, you'll pick better today goals. So again, it should be a single behavior, a single skill or part of a skill, a single change that you can implement over 1 day, right? That's super important. It should be something that is within your long-term goals. I said that already. Here's some of the benefits of a today goal. You can see progress because it either happened today or it didn't, right? And so ideally you want something that you can do and then it happens, and then you get that satisfaction of like, all right, I set a micro goal within my larger goal, and it's not like I can't do it. It's not like I suck, like I was able to do that, right? And then maybe you can make it a little bit harder or a little bit more advanced or expand it just a tiny bit the following day, right? Another benefit is you can reflect on what allowed or prevented the thing from happening, and then you can adapt, right? So the value isn't always that you did it. Ideally, it's something that you should be able to accomplish, but it's not game over if you didn't do it. Don't give up. Then you can be like, okay, well, what specifically stopped me from advancing and performing with this specific goal, right? It can be really hard to reflect on those things for an overall year-long goal, but like a 1 day goal, literally what stopped you from doing that thing, right? You should be able to pick that out. If you can't pick it out, then maybe you need to, simplify your today goal even a little bit more. And then the last thing, there's more benefits, but I would say the last big benefit is you improve faster with focus on specific skills. And that's something you can find that everywhere. That's demonstrated within sports, within learning. If you focus your learning, there's just a million examples, right? But that's a real thing. That's proven. You can improve faster when you focus on specific skills that are within the larger skill set of something you're trying to learn. So now that I've talked about all this, and it probably seems super obvious, but let's just talk some examples, right? Because this applies to a lot of things. So let's talk physical goals. What's an example? Well, I mentioned earlier, weight loss. What's a good today goal that you could do? A 1 day goal. Maybe your goal is to lose 40 pounds. Maybe it's to lose 140 pounds. That's a long-term goal. You're not going to do that in a couple months. And if you do, it's really hard to do that in a way where you can stay at that reduced weight, right? It's a long-term goal. So what is a way that I can get around this scale that seems to be like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And, sometimes it looks like I'm not losing weight at all. You can pick a behavior that's within your control. Theoretically, even though you do have some control over what you're eating and stuff, you don't necessarily have control over what the scale is telling you, or sometimes that's just too complicated. Like I said, it can be down to like the water and all that stuff. You can control if you get outside and take steps, right? So that would be a good one. I would say a today goal would be hit 10K steps. 10,000 steps sounds like a lot. It's like maybe a mile walk or maybe a 2-mile walk, right? You don't have to hit it all at once. Go outside a couple times, take a bunch of 10-minute walks. If you're like, there's no way I can do 10K steps. There's just no way. Not with my lifestyle, with my job, I live in the city, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. Let's start with 5,000, right? And then you can ramp up from there. And like I said, at the end of the day, you either hit it or you didn't, right? And then you can look back, and instead of being like, well, why do I feel like I'm not losing weight? And you're trying to reflect on this large, question that has a million variables on, whether you felt like you were losing weight that day or not. You can look at something that was within your control, mostly, a behavior at least, and be like, okay, first of all, did I try? Did I really try? Did I prioritize it? Right? You can start reflecting there. And then that's changes you can adapt for the next day. Strength gains, right? What are some today goals you can do for strength gains? There's a lot of different things. But just for example, you could time your rest periods, right? Maybe your strength gains seem to be hit or miss because sometimes you're not taking as much rest as other days, right? Some days you're taking too much rest. In between sets, I should say. You're doing a set, and it's a set of 4 at 80%, something like that. That's pretty hard. You probably need 2.5 minutes rest. Set your rest periods and stick to them. And then at the end of the day, you're like, either I did or I didn't, right? And you can look back and be like, well, I was trying to find a song, and then 3 minutes went by or something like that. Or I was crunched on time, and so I had to rush through my sets, and I didn't recover all the way, and so one of my sets suffered, whatever. You get what I'm saying? That's a today goal. That's something that you can implement. It's something that you can reflect on. It is a behavior. It's not, it's pretty limited on the amount of inputs that are going to affect it. That's some physical goals examples. So sports and athletic skills, kind of branching out of just strength training or losing weight. There's all kinds of skills and goals and things that people have in athletics. I'm an athlete, right? I was a former athlete and I'm still an athlete. I have goals going on right now. This is stuff that I have to work on daily, okay? So for example, football, right? There's a million things going on in football. You're trying to go pro, or you're trying to win a game. I don't know, any of those things. You're trying to become a better athlete. Let's just say you're a wide receiver. There are so many things that you're trying to improve on. Your physical attributes like your speed, your cutting, getting in and out of your breaks, your release, your route, your ability to track the ball, catching the ball on the move, contested catches, catching in the air. I'm just going over a million things here, right? You need to pick, while you're trying to improve all of them, if you really want to see progress, be like, today, even though I'm working on everything, I'm really, really wanting to personally hit a specific goal of just nailing a specific release. I know I'm going to do, 15 routes today in practice. I'm going to try to hit 5 diamond releases based on the situation, and I want to nail 2 of those diamond releases, right? Or I want to nail 2 of those. Like, I just don't want to get jammed at the line of scrimmage. That's my goal today. I'm improving everything, but I'm really just like, I want to try to make sure, putting a special focus on not getting jammed at the line of scrimmage. If you're a wide receiver, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you're not a wide receiver, that's why there's a million examples here, right? And you should figure it out. So grappling, I do jiu-jitsu and wrestling. So there's a million things to learn, right? And everybody grapples differently. And you're in all these different situations and circumstances, and you're constantly rolling with people that are improving at the same time. So as you're getting better, they're getting better. So it just feels like you're not getting better. It feels like everybody sucks, right? And so something that's really helpful there is focusing on one thing. I want to hit one specific takedown in training. If I get this setup, if I get this kind of pressure, if they are grabbing me this way and we're in a clinch that way, I'm going to hit this takedown. That's what I'm going to try to do, right? Or maybe it's not that simple. Maybe you're newer to grappling and you're like, I'm just going to try not to panic, right? When I'm in a bad situation, I'm going to try to control my breathing. That's my goal for the day, is when I'm getting smashed, I'm going to think to myself, slow down my breathing. Let's try to get my heart rate under 100 beats per minute. That's a great today goal. Okay, complete change, right? We talked about physical things. We talked about physical skills. This is still skills, but let's talk about the other side of the brain. Let's talk about creativity, right? When it comes to creativity, I'm a musician, and I'm a big fan of limiting myself to create more or to promote creative outcomes for myself. Everybody, you know, might work differently. There's people that are going to really disagree with that, or just have different ways that they do it. I know some of my friends they look for inspiration by trying to build off of something that they hear and then changing things, and that's maybe the way they do it. But for me, one of the things that I do is I'll limit myself, right? I try to create a creative scenario within whatever the situation is musically. Let's just say it's guitar, right? Or I don't know, something else like that. Guitar is the one that I play, so that's the one I think of. And so to limit myself, maybe I'm recording and I'm trying to be more creative and get out of my box and do something different, and you know, not do the same things, not go to the same comfortable places of creativity. I'm going to pick one specific piece of gear, or maybe a type of playing, right? A certain scale or a technique or something like that, and constrain myself and work within that constraint to try to build inspiration for something new. Break me out of the things that are comfortable, right? That's a today goal, you know, and that's another one where you could be like, all right, you know, I like this work that I contributed, but I feel like it's kind of similar to what I always do. Did I constrain myself? Did I do the things that I talk about? Yes or no? That's an easy one to reflect on. Career development. Career development is a big one. There's a million things you can do. I think one of the best places to start when you're trying to develop your career is implement a time management behavior and stick to it. So that could be blocking your time. You know, if you get distracted easily like I do, it's like, okay, I got my time for answering emails and I'm going to block that time off, and then I'm not going to do that at least for a couple more hours and try to focus on other things during that time. That's a big thing, right? It could be adding a career development activity like learning something, learning a new skill, getting better at Excel, something like that. But doing that outside of your workday, because we know your workday does not always go the way that it should. It's a lot of times completely out of your control. And not that everything outside of your workday is within your control, but that's a good place to put a behavior where the effort is there, right? Because like I said, the effort is the thing that matters the most. Lastly, personal development. And there's a lot of examples I could use, but I just think healing from a bad situation. Maybe it's a breakup. Maybe it's a really bad circumstance that you lived through. And so that's a really big one where it can feel like you're going backwards, you know, like it's getting worse. Not only are you not making progress, but you're like, I'm getting worse. I'm having a harder time getting away from this. Practicing daily forgiveness. That's a good today goal. I'm going to try to choose forgiveness for this person. I'm going to try to choose to forgive myself over and over again. I think that's a good today goal that can be very challenging, but it's a daily one. So hopefully these tips helped you. These are things I use every single day. Would love to hear your thoughts in the comments.